One of them chains you can put on a necklace or something like that.
Yeah, somebody gonna get they championship ring snatched from them. Who's the best bet for that? Great, they should be glad they ain't giving one to Grayson Allen because he would be in trouble. He wasn't on the team last year, so he isn't getting one. He got some money though.
Definitely got some. Definitely got paid.
Yeah, so maybe he could get a fake one. If he gets snatched, he won't. He won't. He only got a fake ring / pendant. Anyway, we're back. It's Running with WARR. We running one and running on, of course, a special day for all hoop heads. It is opening night of the NBA season. It's back again, though. Maybe it didn't seem like it was that long since it left. It really hasn't been that long since it left. It was late July, but the schedule is sort of getting back into regular form now with the NBA, and they're returning at what they're used. Oh, we got Chris in, man. We got Jerobi in. Jerobi's here.
Come on, man. That's cool. Hey, you know his verse on Conrad Tokyo was nice.
He look. I think Ken may still feel this way, but I remember when that came out, Ken was like, I want to hear Jerobi. I was like, Jerobi was spitting on that album, man. But I say Jerobi, I'm kind of poking at you, but I say it fondly as well because you just like the fourth dude, and sometimes you hear, sometimes you're not. I let you do you, and I'm glad. I'm always glad to see you.
I was gonna say I got to kind of jet after the Sky Talk, unfortunately, but I'll give my quick, some of my quick Bulls thoughts as much as I can.
Well, I guess we'll have to jump that in all at once. How long are you be able to stay around?
To like 45.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we got some time. But yeah, because a couple of things have just dropped on us. None of us realized that the game was going to be on at 6:30, and we all thought it was going to be 7:30.
Are they in Brooklyn?
Nah, they in Milwaukee.
Oh, huh.
Because Milwaukee get the rings and doing the ceremony and stuff. So,
I guess.
But they're doing it at 6:30 because the West Coast game, they wanted to start at 9. So. But the NBA 75 has jumped off already and stuff. That caught us off guard too. So it's like it's just some stuff going on. But it leaves us with plenty to talk about both today and tomorrow, which is I should announce. Tomorrow we'll have a second part to our preview coverage, and we'll be joined by our guy and the one and only Scoop B. He'll sort of be replacing me for that show because I won't be on that show. I'm talking about Chris, but I'm gonna be dipping at times myself as well. But yeah, Scoop B will be with us tomorrow. He'll be, of course, all types of insider information from him, as well as promoting a new philanthropic venture that he's engaging in. That should be very interesting to talk about. But Josh will be holding down the reins for the show there. But it's an interesting time. The season has started, new NBA season has started. It's sort of handing off, taking the baton from the WNBA season. This time it gets to run, I guess traditionally how it's run with the WNBA running up towards the beginning of the NBA season. But I don't remember it being so close like this. Like it seemed like usually it's sometime between the end of the WNBA season and the beginning of the NBA season.
It would be the end, like mid-September, I think, usually.
Yeah.
The season would end. So you would have a break, like a month-long break or so.
But I think it's kind of good. And I think we're going to try to get in a little bit of this talk with you too, Chris, before you go. I think there's some things that the league needs to address and, maybe try to improve upon given the situation it's in now, which is potentially a very good situation for the continued maturation or evolution of the league. But, me and Drew actually sort of went into this a little bit with Cheryl Ray Stout yesterday on Monday Night Memes. That was there were some things that just unsettled me about the weekend and stuff. And as great as it was for the Sky, for the Sky, really, it was really nothing wrong with the Sky itself. And Chicago itself was sort of like league, overarching things with the league and stuff that it can't necessarily control itself, but they may want to get more control of it. But we'll get into that in a bit.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I guess let's just start. As this Brooklyn Milwaukee game tightens up, and Milwaukee was out quite a bit, but now Brooklyn's fighting back in the game. But the big celebration here today. Parade runs through the South Loop and into Randolph. And one thing that I was thinking about with this parade is that I think, Chris, I've seen you mention explicitly that the Sky are a South Side team. And it's interesting. They did keep the parade route pretty much south of the South Loop. It went to downtown. It goes up into downtown, that Millennium Park, Pritzker Pavilion. It was a nice setting. Randolph, you're talking about, pretty much mid downtown. I think once you get past that, though, there's really not much of a connection to the South Side. So I was wondering, what did you think of the festivities today? I'm not necessarily handing that off to you. You can do what you want with that, but I just thought of that myself. But what did you think of the festivities today and how the city came out again? It wasn't what we saw when the Sox celebrated, and it's not likely what we would see. It wasn't what we saw when the Bulls celebrated, and it's not likely what we would see if they ever celebrate again, one of the big four, as it were. But it was a very respectable, showing by the city again. A lot of excitement. Chance came on. It was extra, as we could have expected. But everybody was excited. It was a lot of fun. What you guys think about what happened today?
Can I ask?
You got something really?
I got a quick question because you said Chance and it triggered something in me.
Go ahead.
Was that his man's that was getting Griner all fired up?
Yeah, during the game with the green hat on.
Man,
he was like two seats away from him, so I guess he might have been, because he was real close to him.
Every time Griner hit a shot, she would point at this dude. I'm like,
I heard he was turning into.
And one time they had a break, and she started to go back towards her bench, but then she turned back around. It was like jump that dude. Yeah. And he came onto the screen. I was like, who is this dude? Like, you really about to jump on the court this ain't? This ain't 87 for Jeffrey, bro. What are you doing? Like,
I was getting serious Spike Lee, John Starks vibes. Like, come on, man, don't.
We don't need all that, man. Just show you, just root for the home team, man.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I just had that. I had that spark up in me. I apologize.
Nah, that was cool. But yeah, what y'all think about today and everything, and wrapping up this whole adventure and this whole just a great story, man. Like I say, nothing souring about the story from the Sky itself. I think so many great personalities on this team, from the players to the coach and everything, and they've done something to bring some happiness to the city. Again, this, I don't think I've felt anything like this for a team in the city since the Little League team, the Jackie Robinson West. And that unfortunately ended kind of sourly. But I don't see anything happening here because they pros. They can do whatever they want. They're not getting paid enough. But they don't have to worry about some of the stuff that Jackie Robinson West did. But like I said, feel good story. I think essentially a book could be written about this team with it. Maybe that's something you want to work on, Chris.
That's, you could, honestly. There was a lot.
Yeah,
there was a lot that went into this season outside the team and within the team. Like I've said in past shows, before the season even started, right after I think the team got Candace, they had to deal with the Gabby Williams stuff about, whether to trade her. She was taking a hiatus from the team. They were actively trying to move her. And then they eventually did to Los Angeles for a couple of depth pieces at that point in time. Then, the 2-0 start, the 7 losses, the 7 wins, just the unevenness of the season. Like, they would have flashes. It was funny. I think before all of this, the moment that I would have most remembered is the game that they had, that game that I've talked about right before the Olympic break against Washington, that they lost in overtime because the place was as full as I'd seen it.
Yeah.
Like, so many people were there. David Aldridge was there. Like, why was David Aldridge there? But
I remember that game though. That seemed like a forerunner. That, not knowing what was going to happen. That I remember that, like you said, with that crowd and that game, and it was an exciting game. They wound up losing it, but it was it really was a great setting, and it was noticeable at the time. Good.
No, you're right. It was. It was like it felt like it was. It felt really, really big, and that was the crazy thing. But they lost. They ended up losing the game, and that was the wild thing. I thought that was basically going to be the legacy of the season, like this team that was going all in, and yet they were average. They were just average, especially with the losing games at home. They were 6-10 at home to finish for the entire year. They were 6-10 at home, and they went 5-0 at home in the postseason. There's so many things that none of us have heard, that maybe only a few people have been able to talk to the team about. That final press conference after they won, I think somebody asked them about a moment during the season, and Kalia Copper was like, "Yo, y'all remember Olympic break?" And they went, "Olympic break." And there's something, I don't know if it was a players only meeting or what, because not everybody could be with the team. They were at the Olympics, right? So there was something that catalyzed them at that point. And the wild thing is, they came out of the Olympic break, won those 2 games at Seattle, which were like, okay, this is a sign, but they still need to win more. And then they ended up losing the rest of the schedule except the closing game in Indiana, and they finished, half and half. So for all of that to take place, and then for this team to roll through the postseason the way they did, like the 2 games that they lost were close, and they had a few blowouts in there, it's not unprecedented. But for this city, I think, even the last major championship came with drama at almost every turn. It was more, obviously, I'm always going to say more people should have watched it, but for the people that did watch it, it was weird how this felt like a team of Ricky O'Donnell, he called it, he said it was a team of destiny. He said the Chicago Sky were a team of destiny. And they were. They really were. Even I talked to somebody today about that deficit in game 4 and how she felt. And she's like, well, there was a moment maybe, but I never thought that they were going to lose that game. And it was like the crowd had been dead. The crowd had been quiet. But once Quigley hit the first 3, it was less like they were dead and more like they were just waiting. Like they knew, but they were waiting. They were waiting for that moment to come. And then it came. And it was like a tidal wave rolled over Phoenix.
Me and we talked about this yesterday on Monday Night Means. It's kind of like the Sky didn't get over the hump until the hump was the only thing left to get over, if that makes sense.
It does.
and to your point, see, as I was watching it from home and they were going into the third quarter, I believe they were down by 9. And I think at one point it ended up getting down by 11. I'm like, oh man, I felt the opposite. Like I'm sitting there. I told Kyle this with a draft with a tweet ready to send out. Like, man, I'm getting some real Bulls Cavs vibes from 2015 when LeBron hit that corner shot and they're pretty much kind of knocked all the wind out of the Bulls, and the Cavs went on to win 4-2. I'm like, man, I feel it coming on, and all of a sudden, one shot turns to another. The Mercury blew bunny after bunny. Diana Taurasi was more concerned about the refs than she was, than she was anything else.
She had some things on her mind throughout that.
Man, and admittedly, I don't get a chance to watch a ton of WNBA basketball. And I know she was going through a lot of things. The situation she had with the birth of her second child and the whole fiasco with getting over there and getting back. She just seems so preoccupied with the refs, especially in this game Sunday. It just felt like she wasn't going to really get right, And to top it off, like the Sky played pretty good defense on her, but it's just. Like you said, Chris, and like Ricky O'Donnell said, sometimes that destiny is there. You can't fight it. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. It happens.
When Taurasi stayed down about that call, which, by the way, at that point, it was a toss-up, I think, but with it being that late in the game, I didn't think she was going to get that call. I saw it and watched that moment over and over, and I was like, she obviously was trying to bait contact, but Diana, at this point, you pushed the ref and clapped at another ref and they teed you up. They ain't doing you no favors. So you might as well play. But I was trying to figure out when the moment came that the Sky won the game, and that was it. That was it. When Kalia Copper got that run out, that was it. They were cooking from there. Now, credit to Skylar Diggins-Smith for drawing those 2 offensive fouls, because that was veteran savvy.
Yeah.
Because I think one of those was legit and the other one was just BS. But that was a momentum killer if I ever saw one. I thought they were going to take the game back, but they didn't. They couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, watching that fourth quarter, you guys talk about different key moments of when the Sky really just able to get that extra spark. I think for me, what really aided to it was the hometown hero outside of Allie Quigley coming through in the most crucial moments. When Candace Parker, hit that clutch 3 to bring the game back within, I think, with a 1 possession game, and then that led to the run out for Kalia Copper to get the layup, and her getting the key rebounds and working with Sloop to pretty much calm the team down and position the team in the way that they need to be, so that way Stephanie Dokes can hit those 2 floaters and layups to pretty much seal the deal outside of Sloop's, Rondo pump fake float shot and her sealing the deal at the end of the game with those 2 free throws. Like, it's just what made this season so special is what you guys mentioned. It's all storylines, and there's so many different ones from the beginning to the end. From Candace Parker coming home to what you mentioned about Gabby Williams and that fiasco, to is Allie Quigley going to find herself out of the slump that she was going through in the playoffs, to Sloot's historic postseason that she had, breaking assist records and triple-double records and all that, to even, the story of Coach Wade and how he got here and having one of his biggest mentors. They talk about the press conference and Coach Hughes sitting right across where he's coaching at, because he told him he was going to be in that seat one day. I mean, there's so many different storylines that really made this season that special for the Sky. That, yeah, like you said, it was meant to be destiny, but destiny also has multiple stories within one path. And that's what the Sky really experienced and showed us this year. There's so many storylines that led to success for these individual players that came together as a collective unit to do pretty much the impossible that not many people thought would happen, even though the decks of cards were there when the news of Candace Parker coming home. Like, that was the expectation. But throughout the season, there was so many ups and downs. It was pretty unsure whether they could live up to that. And the postseason really clicked. I think Chris, you mentioned about the post-game press conference. Allie talked about in the post-game conference about when, for them, kind of clicked, and it was the first round of the playoffs against the Dallas Wings, and how she said that was the time when we finally it was like they all bought into this new style of basketball that they wanted to play, and everything took off from there because they found out who they were. And when they found out who they were, that's what took things to the next level. And just that story alone is so impactful that it's something that cannot be overlooked when you talk about a celebration of a franchise that brought its first championship ever in history, and only after its second finals appearance. I mean, that's something pretty big. And yeah, you really can't write a different storybook ending than what it could be now.
Yeah, we've spoken about the potential historic nature of this team and its accomplishment, and it's really really materialized in that way. And Chris, you mentioned a little bit about like this sort of, in particular, about the moment in the game when in game 4 when the crowd was sort of laying dormant and they were waiting to explode again. I would kind of extrapolate that to just the whole reaction from the city to this team, and once the city realized that the team had a chance of winning, like it seemed like I remember you a couple years ago writing a nice feature for WeAreRigoRadio.com about the culture that was surrounding the Sky and how it was building up in Wintrust Arena and stuff. I think it was the first year that they were there. And, media as well, like you and some of the devoted media who were coming out to those games. And, at that point, we weren't seeing the crowds like they were in the past couple of weeks or at that Washington game earlier this season, but you were seeing people coming out steadily. There was a certain amount of people who really appealed to the team, really appealed to them, and they were on it early. And it seemed like now, at this point, so many people have jumped onto the bandwagon, and I think the team and a lot of the players have treated it well. They've been like, "Come on and join us." It's not like how people get with certain rappers and stuff when they get underground and then they get mainstream and you start to hate on the mainstream fans that come along. No, it's like with sports, that's kind of a different thing. It's typically the more the merrier. And especially with a sport like the WNBA, where it's so long it's been under promoted and underappreciated. This really is a time for that sport and a team that really exemplifies the best of that sport to shine and be given, a platform that is, it was really great and amazing when the league came into prominence for being a place where athletes can speak on social issues and all these things and represent for people who don't even have any voice in the public sphere. But, to have that, and they're not leaving that, but to also have that pure sporting moment of prominence and enthusiasm with a major city like Chicago really getting behind the team with celebrities and all this stuff, it's meaningful. And it's something that the league can really draw upon for its future going ahead. And like I said, I hope they don't drop the ball in that regard. But, I said too, like, if Chicago didn't win this championship, if they didn't get as far as they did, it would have been a lot different. If this finals was Connecticut and Phoenix, I don't think you would have got the same type of publicity from it overall that you got from this series. And, I think the WNBA should be thankful about that. And, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. But I guess I will get into the whole, like some of the things that I didn't like about, first off, the game should have been on ABC.
Yeah.
They had game 1 on ABC. They didn't have a game after that on ABC. And, it's reasonable. They didn't have the games during the regular week on ABC. That's another thing I'm going to say in a minute. But they had the game on the middle of an NFL Sunday overlapping with a game that was going on in the whole city for their football team, where they know we have a devoted media and fan base, that gets riled up about the Bears. I know there's people who could give a damn about the Bears and the NFL. We're looking at one in Chris here, but the majority of Chicago sports fans, I think, in one way, well, I don't know, maybe not a majority, but maybe a solid plurality was probably like, man, I'd have liked to have seen the Bears and the Sky, or the Sky and the Bears, but you had to flip back and forth, whatever. But that's one thing. But you don't have the game bumped, in a sense, for a rerun of the 30 for 30 on the 86 Mets. You don't do that. That's stupid.
That was the 30 for 30?
Huh?
They had a 30 for 30 on?
Yeah, the 86, the one on the 86 Mets that already premiered a couple months ago on ESPN. It's ridiculous. It's like you could, even if you wanted to, if you had to have the game at from 2 to 4 at that spot, show it on ABC. You would never do the NBA like that.
No,
you would never do college football like that. Why would you do the WNBA like that? So you make the league still, in some ways, look second rate. And there was some other issues. I can't really speak on them as much. Maybe you can, Chris, because you was there. But Cheryl Ray Stout yesterday was speaking on some issues with the media and how they were being handled, and during the series, during the Sunday's game in particular. And there's also some more or less visual things that you could argue about. Like Cheryl mentioned the fact that they didn't have a podium on the court. When they something that you would have on an NBA trophy presentation, you'd have them sort of risen up, and it's sort of an optics thing there. But regardless of that, like I say, I think overall what I'm getting to is that I think the league, so they have to put in some work. It's unfortunate that they have to do as much as they seemingly have to do, but at the same time, they got a nice bump here, I think, with this series, and with the potential continuation of the Chicago Sky being a big thing in Chicago, in a major city, in a city that is known for basketball. This is something that they really can work on, and I've seen some one report in ESPN, on ESPN.com in particular. They're still talking about the league going forward, and there's talk about continued expansion, which will be good to see. I like to see them go back to a couple of cities they've been in before, like Houston, like Detroit, and also I think at a certain point you have to get extend the playoffs a bit. And I know there's some issues with scheduling there, and you want to fit yourself in the time. But it was I think what we've seen this year is good for them to be in the mix in this fall schedule, and sort of like I said, handing off to the NBA. I don't think that's a bad thing. There's something you could work off of, but I don't. The only thing that is good counter programming to the NFL is more football. So you want to try to avoid that. Like, keep the games on the weekdays if you can. I think they could have had game 4 on Monday. You still would have had football to go against, but it just would have been one game instead of like 12. So, I think you should try to keep the games on the weekdays, maybe go more towards prime time when you can. And, because they got Friday's game 3 got a lot of, publicity to it, a bump it looked like. And that was a blowout. Like, if you had that game 4 on Friday, a lot of people would have been talking about that. Even though on the Friday, a lot of people would have been talking about the game. A lot of people did on Sunday. But, like I said, that's just some of my thoughts on that situation. I don't know, Chris, anything else, anything you want to run with in that regard?
I heard Cheryl Ray this morning on actually, no, it was yesterday. She was on NPR. And she specifically said that the league needs to market their product better. And I'm not a marketing person. I know some things that they don't do that I would like. Something like you said, for sure, with timing, that game should have been on ABC. You could have moved it back. I think even you would have had to compete with Sunday Night Football, maybe, but that one's tough because you don't have too many options in terms of when to play that game.
Yeah.
But definitely, no matter what, it should have been on ABC. There's nothing else that you could have on ABC that I think supersedes a championship game in a professional sports league.
They proved it. They showed the freaking rerun of 30 for 30 on the 86 Mets.
Like if you got nothing, if you have no live sports to show, then you show that. You know, even if you do have live sports to show, you show that unless it's I think unless it's a playoff game in another sport, that's the game you show for what you have rights to. There's other things I'd love to pick her brain about because, like I said, I'm not a marketing person. I know that there's controversy with who they promote in terms of color. There's a lot of discourse, underground about Sabrina Ionescu and how much credit she was getting for the New York Liberty this year, even though Betnijah Laney was their best player.
But Chris, you know what? Let's speak about the apparent GOAT right now and Taurasi. And I've loved Taurasi for a long time as a player. I think she did herself a disservice with the way that she represented herself over the course of the series and over the course of the weekend. The Sky represented well by bringing the door that she kicked into the rally. Good on them for doing that. But, for her to do that, for one, and for that team to not show up for the media after the game, those were 2 strikes. And I think they were fined $10,000 for that. That's like there's not a drop in the jar so much for them as it would be for the NBA, but it's not a good number. But, like I said, we're understandable. But, it's just 2 things that it's not the type of thing that you want to see. And I don't know, what were your thoughts in particular on, like I say, them bailing after the game and how Taurasi and I started off with Taurasi because Taurasi again is another white player, sort of coming off your point, who has been elevated. And in this recent conversation of the top 25 of the 25 years of the WNBA, she's sort of gotten placed as the GOAT. The ESPN had they asked a bunch of people, I guess, and she was voted the number 1 player of all time in the league. And, a lot of people would argue that. So I think also if you're going to be that person, you got to be that person all the time, and, I don't think she represented well, but, what are your thoughts?
It's hard to say because Diana plays that way and has played that way for so long. And people have talked about it before. Some people are a fan of the totality of how she plays. Like, she is not just a hard-nosed, tough player who's like, fuck off my lawn. She's also arguing with refs, talking to other players, talking to other benches, things like that. And a lot of that is basketball, right? That's the professional basketball that we've become accustomed to, especially in Chicago, watching Jordan play, or for the next generation.
And I'm not against. We give guys a lot of latitude. I'm just we give the women just as much latitude as we give the guys. But Jordan ain't kicking no doors after a loss either. And we know how much he hated losing.
Yeah, no, I mean I wasn't mad about here's what I had to tell myself, because I was thinking about this since it happened on Sunday. I wasn't upset that Phoenix didn't come to the press conference, but the difference is between me and pretty much everybody else in that room is that I wasn't working the deadline. So those are a lot of people who were without quotes, and as much animosity as I felt that might have been a little bit over the top, or just like, not exaggerated, just a little bit too much animosity in the room. Is like, are they coming? Are they going to come? Do they know what this means? And it's like, sure, they probably don't know what it means, but it's secondary to how they're feeling right now. But at the same time, with the rules that are in place and with the fact that we've all had to face the music after a loss, so to speak, whether it's a athletics loss or any kind of thing where we failed, whomever we had to talk to them. We had to own up to what happened. And sure, there were going to be people in there asking about, why'd you talk to the ref? Why'd you ask for that foul as the Sky were on a 5-on-4? They were going to ask about shooting. They were going to ask how her injury might have held her back. They're going to ask Skylar Diggins-Smith about her, a underwhelmingly shooting series, things like that. They're probably even going to ask about the future. It sucks to have just Sandy Brondello in there, and she was a class act for sure. She took that in stride.
The coach, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But it's I don't know if Diana represented herself well, but I don't think she represented herself any differently than you would expect. I think that's the part that I was trying to parse together right there. I would expect that Diana, who pushed the ref and got teed up, it might have been a light technical, but they had to do something. They had to show at some point. Mm-hmm. I would expect that Diana to kick a door. I didn't expect them to bring the door to the rally. I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I
think it was a good checkmate. It was a good checkmate.
That was great. Yeah. That was a scoreboard moment.
But I'm gonna say two things though about what I don't know if it's two things. But I would say something in regards to Taurasi versus or vis-a-vis Parker, who she played in this series, and Parker winds up being victorious. And I think some people will be willing to prop up Parker as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, or figure in the WNBA. If not, she's not the most rewarded or whatever, but she's had a momentous career. And I think part of that too is the fact that she, as a crossover star, and we can argue about why that is the case, for her as opposed to Diana, Parker is a bit more media ready because of that. She's in the way that Jordan was, and the way that Kobe was, and LeBron was, and is in the NBA. She knows how to handle herself in defeat and in victory, and she's there for the quotes. She's there for the quips. She's there to be seen and to represent the league that has aspirations in the way. Both she has her own personal aspirations, and the league does. So I think it'll be important and valuable for the league to create more of those people. It is important that Diana is who she is because women haven't had that freedom in the sporting space, and in basketball. But at some point, you gotta keep evolving, and it's got to be like, look, you can't just be. It's cool that you could represent the way that you want and sort of approximate the way that the guys act on the court and a little bit off the court, but it ain't going to endear you anymore to a general public that you want to, kind of endear yourself more to. It's going to be more endearing when you're Candace, and, that's why I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, to your point though, I mean, there's going to be villains no matter what. There's always going to be kind of the Trey Youngs, the Reggie Millers.
But that's villain. Yeah, those guys, they're theatrical in a way that's fun. It's not fun to kick in the door and be petulant towards the media. That's not fun for anybody. It's fun you want to do a bow on the court. That's fun. You want to do a choke signal to Spike Lee. That's fun. I mean, some people may be offended by that, but you can get around that. What Taurasi did this weekend wasn't fun for anybody. It wasn't fun for her, and she may have been dealing with things inside that that nobody wants to deal with. But it wasn't fun. It wasn't the utmost professional act.
No doubt. Though I did hear she went into the locker room and did kind of congratulate the Sky players away from the cameras.
Oh yeah, well on camera she was hugging them on the court and stuff. She was fine then, but when the camera got off, she let off some steam.
I got you.
Yeah, it's just always one of those things where it's got to be part of leadership, right? If you lead by example, you got the responsibility for the actions that you do. That's what at the end of the day, people follow you, and that if you want to even so consider Diana Taurasi the leader of that team, yeah, it's a bad look. I mean, at the end of the day,
and the leader of the league, Josh.
The leader of the league, yeah, it's a bad look regardless. Not to consider, it wasn't just her that from a big name perspective that could have made an influence by not following that same lead. You had Brittany Griner who killed that game. Almost gave him a 30
the whole series.
Killed the whole series. Big name in the league. She followed suit. Skylar Diggins-Smith, she's a pretty top tier point guard in the league. She followed suit too. So even though it was probably Diana Taurasi that led that movement, it's the team as a whole, and you have multiple leaders on that team than just her. Especially if you carry on a responsibility to lead in different ways based on what the team needs. And we know that Phoenix wasn't going to go anywhere without their three-headed monster in Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, and Skylar Diggins-Smith. So yeah, completely agree. Diana Taurasi, bad look, bad call, bad judgment call, bad leadership call in general. But they had more than one leader on that team that could have switched that narrative around. That was a collective effort. That was a collective team effort outside of the coach, because obviously we know the coach did her press conference and did it respectfully and did it professionally and well. But as the players, as maybe a players coalition or players union on that team, they collectively agreed not to do that.
Yeah, we should. That's good you said that, Josh. It was collectively bargained by the team, by the Players Association WNBA, that they don't have to necessarily have engage in the post game conferences. So and that's something that, hey, like I say, more power to the players in that regard if you can make that happen for yourself. But there is a little bit of a short-mindedness that is involved with that as well. Again, if you're talking about being a league that wants to engage itself more with fans and in general and stuff like that, not just be a niche league, you got to think about stuff like that as well. If they're free to be the league that they want to be, but when you engage in decisions like that collectively, you got to think about after effects.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, man, I can't say it any better than you just did, because, like I said, I don't think it's out of character. And at this point, Diana's 40; she's not going to change.
Right, she a grown ass woman. Right. Like the coach down at Oklahoma State said a while back when he turned 40. I'm a man. I'm 40. She's a woman. She's 40.
But I think you're right. Like I said, can't say it any better. I think you're right. I think it wasn't. Yeah,
I don't want to just bash her. Like I said, I'm a great fan of Taurasi as a ball player and as a competitor, and personally, what I've seen of her in interviews and stuff, she's a great, like I say, she's a great representative of the game. She knows what's important about the game. But it's like, hey, you took an L, man. You've been a champion 3 times. It's like, that's a little bit too petulant for me, for someone who's been in at least 4 finals. I don't know if she lost any more besides this year, but like I said, that is how it is. But Chris, you got a dip?
Yeah. One last thing. I know we talked about the GOAT argument, but the thing that I know that you and Drew and maybe Josh, I don't know if you replied to it on Twitter either, but when NBC Sports said that Candace was the most accomplished basketball player to come out of Chicago.
Sure, yeah. We could go into that right quick. Yeah, sure. What you guys say?
I mean, let's say Illinois first. Let's go ahead and please say Illinois.
Right. Like, hey, Chicagoland at least.
Right.
Chicago. It's Chicagoland. No disrespect to the 630, Josh, but that's where she came up. It wasn't Chicago. Chicago won.
Yo, I did. I think Gabe said. I think Gabriel replied to that, and he said she's really from the 630. She's really from Naperville. So I had to reply back and say, "Don't come from my area code like that. Don't come from 630 like that, man. We all connected some way somehow. Don't come for the 630, man."
Look, they say we not booting her out completely. Look, she came back. She won the title for Chicago. That's meaningful. But I think if ain't nobody putting John Shire up for an argument.
No,
hey. But anyway, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
I'm going to say that as many accolades as D Wade has, and I'm not putting AD in because he doesn't have. I don't think he has the champion. Even with the college coming on the Olympic team without having played pro yet, I can't put him up there with Dwayne Wade. Or at the very least, he's the equal because he won the title in college and he has at least one NBA championship to his name now. But you go over to Wikipedia alone and you look at all the stuff Candace has won, and you can take out some of the stuff in there, like if you want, like 5-time Russian National League champion, but. She was.
Some people ain't gonna count that, unfortunately.
And there's
how many titles did she win in Tennessee?
2.
2. Okay.
2 at Tennessee, 2 at Naperville.
2 state titles in Naperville, 2 college titles, and now 2 pro titles.
That's why I was like, as soon as I saw that tweet, I'm like, nah, it's D Wade. I was like, nah. I went and started looking at some stuff. I'm like, damn, Candace Parker was like
2-time high school player of the year.
Yeah,
bro,
in the country.
It's like a CVS receipt. That joint just keep going.
Yeah. It just keeps going. And I mean, she didn't. I don't want to say she broke the mold, right? Because there have been players before that she had to emulate. Like Lisa Leslie she got to play with Lisa Leslie, and I think that was one of the people that she really modeled her game after. And even before that, you have players who were doing similar things, just on. With Cheryl Miller alone, but the amount of accolades that Candace has gathered to herself in high school, college, and the pros, it's tough to argue against. It really is. If that Marquette team had won the title that D Wade was on, and damn if I didn't want them to do it, then it's a stronger argument. But it's hard. It's hard. Even with the relative parity, the relative disparity and parity between women's college basketball and men's college basketball. I mean, you still got to win the 2 titles. You still got to beat the UConns and the Stanfords and the LSUs at that time. And she played against Sylvia Fowles in college, and we know Sylvia Fowles is a nightmare matchup. Mm-hmm. It's hard to argue against, man.
Let me reframe it this way, and it's kind of moving the goalposts on a whole question that is the way it started out, but. If we looked at this question and said which player is closer to the front of the line at their position, who wins that argument?
So you're talking about like ranking
who's better at
Wade amongst shooting guards and
because weren't people saying Wade was second best shooting guard ever? I think that's changed a little bit now that Harden's been doing what he's doing, depending on how you want to classify him, but.
That is tough.
Kobe too. I'm sorry, Kobe as well. Oh my God.
I think that is tough because Candace is tough to classify in that regard. My girlfriend was saying it. She doesn't watch. She's kind of growing into sports, and she hadn't watched that much basketball. But she watched the game back, and she was telling me she basically classified all the players by their like they were in a game, like a video game or a tabletop game. And she said Candace was such a utility player that filled in all these different needs. And you start talking about those characteristics when you're talking about all-time greats, because that's how they describe Jordan. Mm-hmm. That's what Russell did and Tim Duncan did at their best. They filled in the gaps. And Wade at his best did that. But, when it was just Wade alone, I think we would have to go and look at the Sparks with just Candace and kind of compare those two. I'm leaning Wade as a more prominent shooting guard than Candace has been a small forward. But I think there's a lot of WNBA history that I'm just not versed on. So, is she better than Tamika Catchings in WNBA history? I'm not sure.
Catchings is above her in the ESPN poll.
And Tamika Catchings is an all-time great.
Yeah.
And is she better than Lisa Leslie? I'm not sure. These are things that I got to go back and research myself.
Yeah, Laura Jackson too. Was Laura Jackson more of a pure center? But if you want to classify front court players,
I think that's the biggest thing is classifying what her position truly is. Because if you really want to be that technical, she actually helped transcend what the original power forward position really is. More of a point forward in her role within this league, and positions are changing like crazy now. It's become a positionless basketball. She fits what the change and really led a pretty much was a trailblazer for that. So can you really give her a position, like a direct position, say she was a power forward or she played this position? When quite frankly, when like Chris mentioned, she filled whatever role was needed. She literally did every role. I mean, if you want to talk about in high school, she was playing some point guard in high school. Yeah. And you talk about transferring to Tennessee, she was power forward, switched into small forward type of role. And then you go to the WNBA, and she, at one point, depending on the offense, played every position. So how
you're making a good argument for her standing as an innovative player, Josh.
Yeah. It's really hard. That's why I say it's hard to compare if you want to go by position, because technically she doesn't have a position. She really didn't have a position. And at one point in time, D Wade didn't either, because you could put him at any of the perimeter positions. He ran those positions as well. But he excelled the most when he was that two guard or the number one option on a two guard as the shooting guard on the team, because that's where he excelled the most, especially when you want to talk about individually with that 06 playoff run that led him to the finals. So it's like, how, if you want to define people's legacies based on the positions that they play, it is very hard to do depending on the person and how they trailblaze within that specific position. And Candace Parker was one of the originals to do that.
Definitely. She's the queen of the ball right now in Chicago. So we gotta give it up for, who knows what titles go beyond are to come for Chicago, but we got one now, and it's a pretty special one that we should all recognize. And I'm looking forward to the ring ceremony and banner raising that they're gonna have, I guess next spring, and in Wintrust. And we've seen one tonight in Milwaukee, not too far from us, but we're gonna get into some NBA stuff in a minute here. It says NBA season preview. We haven't talked much about the NBA yet, but we're gonna do that. But we had a great session of WNBA talk here, as we always do with Chris, man. Appreciate you, bro. We gotta step aside, but we'll holler at you soon, man. Are you gonna be out tomorrow?
It's up in the air. It's up in the air right now.
Try to make it.
There's a lot of things I've held off on doing with all the WNBA stuff.
I got you. Scoop gonna want to see you though.
That's true, and I want to see Scoop, man. If for no other reason than to ask how he's doing, and also to ask about Reed, man. I need to see what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to Gabe too, man, who jumped into the convo on Twitter. We gonna get him back on the show soon as well. So that's another Jerobi. So, but there's only one original. That's Chris Pennant.
I would do part of that verse if I could remember it, because he has some nice flow on that verse. But
it's a great album. The Grammys. Another reason the Grammys suck is because they had Tribe on the show that year to release, but it was too late for them to be incorporated in the Grammys. But the next year, when they were eligible, they didn't get nominated. Not even for Best Rap Album. The Grammys fucking suck.
Kyle said it with his chest. All right, y'all boys.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Later.
All right. I'm glad I got that. I'm glad I said that. You can never. That's one of those things you can never say enough. But, anyway, let's. We ain't gonna spend too much time. Hold up your night, your night, gentlemen. But we do got, like I say, some NBA stuff that I do want to get involved with here on this first side of our preview special. But like I said, we'll be back tomorrow. The crew will be back tomorrow with Scoop B for some more talk, some reactions to these games that are going on tonight. Milwaukee holding a 11-point lead currently on Brooklyn, and of course there's Golden State and LA to round up the night. The LA Lakers to round out the night later. But I guess the first thing, to speak on NBA wise is this NBA 75 teams that dropped tonight, the first 25 of the 75. And I don't know, have you guys seen those? All right. Well, let me bring it up. I guess I'm on. It's just been a while since I've been on stream, y'all. So I guess I can kind of share my screen a little easier than I can on the other joint.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I know I already see on Twitter. Somebody was talking about Dominique Wilkins not being a part of it, but the whole 75 has not even been released yet, though, is it?
Right, but of course that ain't gonna stop people from jumping.
And it's no particular order, and it's not. This is something else I learned. It's not 25 added on to the original 50. It's the different.
Yeah, they factored. It's a whole new team that factored up. So if you weren't, there are going to be people who was on that first 50 that was released in '97 who don't make the list this time.
Yeah,
but I think I got. Do you guys see it on the screen? There's a tweet from the NBA communications.
Not yet.
Let me see. What the hell? I'm saying I can't. Let me just try one more time if I can't. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, this from NBA PR, and this is they announced these guys in groups of 5 on the pregame show on TNT as well, but you could see the whole list of guys who were announced today. And I guess, there'll be 2 more groups of 25 that'll be announced over the next 2 days. But you got at the top there, Kareem. I guess they announced Giannis today on the day that he gets his ring. Pretty sure that he was going to be on the team anyway. Nate Archibald, Charles Barkley, another given, Bob Cousy, Dave Cowens, Kevin Durant is the newbie, Julius Erving, George Gervin, two obvious names as well. Hal Greer, James Harden is on the team. Elvin Hayes, Jerry Lucas, Moses Malone. Yeah, some guys pretty much guys you can expect. Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, Hakeem. I don't think was Hakeem on the 97 team. I don't think so. I don't have to look that up. Bob Pettit, Willis Reed, Oscar Robertson, of course, David Robinson, Bill Russell, and John Stockton. So I don't know. You guys got any thoughts on any of those guys? Any surprises or any,
No, I mean,
what order is this?
Huh?
What order is this?
There's no particular order. It's just they're all. I'm gonna say
NBA. Don't be tweaking now, man.
No. Yeah, Kareem ain't the 75th ranked player. No, that's not the case.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Drew.
It's hard for me to really talk about any surprises really until I see the whole list in its entirety. But it looks like it's 5 new people already.
Yeah,
the first 25 players. So
I guess for me it's Harden, but Harden is kind of divisive on Twitter. But I guess out at IRL he's maybe not as divisive. as he is. He's a phenomenal scorer. We know he's going to make the Hall of Fame, but his impact as a championship player, and we know there's some players who on that. I mean, he's MVP as well. I mean, that, like I say, you look at the ranks of players on just this first 25, the guys who haven't won rings, like Barkley, you can't argue. He changed the game in a lot of ways. He's only a one-time MVP, only won finals, but you can't argue him. Okay, I got to go back in the ranks a little bit with some of these older guys. I don't know. Well, Nash is a two-time MVP. You can argue about did he deserve both for any of those MVPs, but he got him in his possession. Yep. So that kind of bumps him above Harden.
They went pretty heavy into the best, some of the best point guards to play the game right off the bat with Archibald and Cousy and Nash, Stockton, Ego. So I wonder, where did the Chris Pauls and the Isaiah Thomases of the world, where do they land?
Yeah, I see some mentions already of Isaiah today on Twitter.
Yeah,
and I think people are fearing that he may get bumped. I don't necessarily see that happening yet. Maybe after tomorrow, maybe we'll have to worry, but I like to think that he'll make the team still. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting, man. There's gonna be a lot of discussion of this. The one thing I say about the reveal, though, I think they kind of lumping it in with the opening games and stuff, and and really they can't control this, but you got the two controversies that's circling the league right now and stuff too. Maybe that's what they're trying to do as well, trying to offset that. But I don't know. I think if I was Adam Silver, I'd have maybe tried to stash this for All-Star Week or something, man.
I think so too.
It would make more sense.
Yeah.
But hey, you got a CYA out here, so CYA out here.
see what you're doing, Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving. Y'all, man, come on, man.
They're messing with our money right now. We got to tap into this list. I don't care. We put some random names together. We'll do it later.
I was in laying out these two shows that we're going to do this week. I sort of let y'all have the Ben Simmons and Kyrie stuff for tomorrow with Scoop, who maybe could add a little bit of insider stuff on there. I know Shams has been on these stories pretty tough, and as far as the scoops and stuff. But with that said, Shams had a report today about this stuff got out anyway, not just Shams, but the stuff that got out today about Ben Simmons in the practice. What do we think about that, man? He's trying to Jimmy Butler his way out of this thing. Apparently now he got they took all his cards, but he said he got the big joker still. He don't give a damn no more, man. Apparently, what are y'all thoughts on that?
I don't know what's more fascinating, the fact that he's trying to follow a Jimmy Butler situation when although there's similarities, there's still differences. Or is it the fact that according to our guy Landon Buford, he reported that he went to the strip club after he got knocked off or kicked out of practice. I don't know.
Is that a Josh? Is that a Jimmy Butler mixed with a James Harden or what?
Let's put it this way: it's a hell of a combo. That's like mixing. That's like mixing two different Kool-Aids together to make one.
Right. You trying to formulate something new.
Right. Like I don't know, but originally when I first thought about this, him getting kicked out of practice, I was like, yeah, Jimmy Butler did the same thing. He actually eventually got what he wanted. But the difference is Ben Simmons wasn't engaged reportedly. Ben Simmons kind of made it known he didn't really want to be there. Ben Simmons, did the most theatrical things you could think of, whether it's practicing with a cell phone in his pocket or not being in the huddle, with the team when they're supposed to, and leaving the gym when whenever he wanted to, getting kicked out of practice. That's one thing Jimmy Butler never got in trouble for. Even though he opened up his issues with the team that wanted to be gone, he still came out and practiced every day. He still showed up on game nights when he was supposed to play. he still fulfilled his professional aspects of the situation. Ben Simmons is completely going off the deep end with that regard, and I'm just like, there's a difference between trying to force your way out, but how bad do you really want to be? Because now you're turning your situation from a Jimmy Butler to pretty much almost what James Harden did, and the way he got out of Houston. So you're really really straddling the fence or towing the line a little bit with what you're trying to get out of what you want, and that's a very thin line to cover, especially since you really don't have that much of a right because of your contract situation, and the team is really not obligated to trade you and give you what you want due to that contract. So it's like, no, I'm just saying, it's just towing that line a little bit, and him going to the strip club when you're already dating a Kardashian ain't helping.
Yeah, I mean,
she might have met him there.
Jimmy Butler showed his ass too. I don't want to make it seem like, he didn't necessarily go out the right way, but to your point,
that story was wild when it happened.
It was. That's a hell of a way to go out though. Like, okay, I'm gonna show you why I'm the shit and y'all need me, but I'm still, but yet and still, I'm gonna get the hell up out of here.
Right.
But I like how you kind of compared Simmons to Harden to Butler, and how these situations have fared. The way it looks from me is Ben Simmons reported just so he could finish burning that bridge, just so he could finish making sure that motherfucker was all the way to the ground in ashes. That's the way it appears.
He didn't want. That's another player we could put Marshawn Lynch in. He wasn't. He was there so he wouldn't get fined no more.
Right. I mean, it's crazy, dude. It's really crazy. I don't envy Daryl Morey one bit.
Make the deal. They can go out and make a deal, man.
He's gonna have to. And Simmons, damn, he's sticking it to him because it's like, I don't know, man. And then you got money on the line too with Simmons. Not that he hasn't already made a whole lot of money. He's not still owed a whole lot of money, but it's not a good situation. It's not a good look for anybody, man.
No, they got to break up. they making a public breakup here, man. It's making everybody uncomfortable. They the couple at the holiday party who you know should have been broke up before Labor Day.
They in the car fighting.
I guess that's what makes this.
You can hear them. They driving up to the party. You can hear them fighting in the car already.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but that's what makes it tough, right? Because reports are out there that Daryl Morey is looking for a superstar for superstar type trade. When in reality, if you look at the trades of James Harden and Jimmy Butler, they didn't get stars back.
Mm-hmm.
They got a bunch of role players and draft picks. And in James Harden, tons of draft capital because they knew from a superstar perspective, you can't match that. So whether Ben Simmons increases or depreciates his value based on what's going on, at this point, Daryl Morey is not going to really find what he's looking for, I don't think. So is he really going to be willing to bite the bullet, or he's going to just weigh this thing out like he originally was going to do with James Harden before he left and got fired? How is he going to toe that line? Because
I don't think you could wait it out, man. The best you could do is sit dude, sort of like how New Orleans did with Davis in his last days, and just hope that eventually you get the deal that you want. But you can't have him with the team. He's gonna be a cancer, and that cancer is gonna spread on that team, and it's gonna debilitate them before Christmas. That team is not gonna be worth a damn by Christmas if they keep him and they try to force him to play or interact with the team, practice, whatever. They got to get him the hell up out of there, man.
They really do.
Yeah.
Well, Doc and Joel are on board with that. They already been known with their responses.
They've been on it. They tried to be fake about it for a minute and be like, well, we could deal with dude. Oh, they can't deal with him, man.
Right.
So, just go ahead and get that deal done, more. You better get what you can or sit them down and hope that another team implodes by the trade deadline, and maybe you could take advantage of that.
You know what? It would be awesome for Morey and Joel Embiid and the rest of the 76ers if they could do a superstar for superstar trade, but kind of bringing it back to the Chicago Sky. If they can even somehow, some way get a couple of players that maybe they can't be impactful right away.
Yes, on the rise. Yeah.
Exactly. So that they still kind of take advantage of whatever Joel.
See, you got to trust your scouting skills, then.
You really do. Because they still got Maxey. I like Maxey. Yeah. So I mean, it's not like if Ben leaves, like they just don't got nothing in the cupboard. Like they just need a couple more positions.
Look, somebody did a tweet putting Ben in a Kings jersey, and I was like, look, the Kings got some pieces. I said I retweeted and said if you get Tyrese in that deal, you real straight. If you Philly, you probably not gonna get that though, but maybe you can get like Davion Mitchell and Buddy Hield or something like that. Mm-hmm. Buddy Hield didn't want to be traded out of Sacramento, so that could be a situation you take advantage of. Get Davion, Buddy Hield, and maybe one of their big guys that they need. Bagley. Yeah, his agent has come out today talking about, look, trade, do something with my guy. You're not playing them. You're not trading them. Do something with him. Yeah. So, you know, the Sacramento's always good for dysfunction. So, you know, they picking up these nice little young players. Take advantage of that if you feel it. You know what I mean? Come on.
That's a great point. I even heard, pie in the sky, like Kyrie for Simmons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, people have been talking about that. I mean, that's kind of garbage in, garbage out to me. You know?
that's like replacing a garbage bag with more trash.
Right.
Like it's no point. You're supposed to get the new garbage bag that has the special scent. That's real. That's the hefty. It's supposed to be super strong. But instead of just cleaning it out, you want to just add more trash and see how much you can really.
And you don't want Kyrie in Philly, man. He gonna be have his head wrapped and his beard gonna be about 5 feet long in a couple of weeks. He gonna be somewhere. He gonna be with some conspicuous Muslims up in North Philly, embedded in a house in some house that you don't want to go into after a certain hour.
It's some tricky situations going around the league, man.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild stuff, man. But we gonna keep up with it, man, throughout the season. And let me see, there's a couple more things on the rundown. We could maybe fold that into the discussions tomorrow. But essentially, it was like sort of looking at the teams that are playing tonight. And I don't know, maybe we could just wrap up with that. Like I say, so far, Milwaukee's up on. It was kind of impressive early on the way that Milwaukee jumped out on the Nets. I was worried that that would carry over throughout the game. It hasn't necessarily. They've sort of woken up. The Nets have, but I don't know what any particular thoughts or observations on the 4 teams that are playing tonight. They're 4 teams that the league, obviously wants to see do well this year, and I'm sure they want them all to go farther in the playoffs than they did last year. Milwaukee can go farther than it did, but go as far or farther than they did last year. And I don't know. It's kind of like the heart of the league right there. In these 4 teams, maybe you could throw a couple others in there, but any particular thoughts on these teams that's playing tonight?
I mean, Kevin Durant. I hope Brooklyn figures out what they're gonna do with Kyrie, because I think they still can win a championship with just James Harden and Kevin Durant. Yeah. But at the same time, the East has gotten better, and since they got stronger, and the fact that even tonight, when you watch the game, even with the superstar talent that they have, the bench is still kind of thin. The depth is still kind of thin on the bench, and it's showing a little bit in this game. If Brooklyn doesn't do or make any additional moves per se to help bolster that up with what they have, especially if they don't, without the certainty of Kyrie Irving coming back, I don't know how much further they really can go, especially if the Bucks stay healthy and go at the rate that they're going right now. to repeat as champions. That's going to be interesting to see. And if you want to talk about who they may play in the Western Conference, I said this on Sid's Second City Sports Show this past week, yesterday. People aren't talking about the Warriors, but if Klay Thompson comes back as Klay Thompson of old, the Western Conference gonna have a problem because you're talking about a healthy Steph Curry, a healthy Draymond. You finally figured out the situation you're gonna do with Andrew Wiggins. Okay, cool, but
this is like it's been so long since he's played, man.
Yeah, like he eventually comes around, cool, but you have, I think, the most improved player candidate of this year in Jordan Poole, who's been balling this preseason.
Yeah.
And, really showing that he could be.
They got them rookies too, man. I like them rookies they got too, man.
Yeah.
Moody and Kuminga.
Is Kerr going to play him, though?
He need to play him soon. Get them old guys rest some.
I think he will, because these past 2 years, I think it's been probably the most difficult years of him coaching, and he had to realize a lot of things that he wouldn't have if he started off this way in the beginning. I mean, Kerr inherited a championship team. That's just really what it was. He inherited that championship team from Mark Jackson. The first year he coaches, they win a championship. Yeah. And they go to the finals pretty much almost every year up until the last 2 years. And you deal with injuries to Steph, Draymond, and Klay. And at one point, all three of them were out, and you saw how depleting of a team the Golden State Warriors were, even with his coaching. I think if he really learned from those experiences, yeah, he would play those rookies or the youth that are on that team along with Steph, or at least one of the stars, Steph, Draymond, Klay comes back healthy, Klay, whatever the case may be. Especially if they can get Wiseman coming back healthy too. Like, putting all that together will help bolster that team that much more. And they need to, because they really do have talented rookies or second-year players that you put on other teams will probably get a lot more minutes and a lot more exposure. So
and thinking about them too, I think they might be a top candidate to get Simmons, even though, like, if you let the year play out and Golden State is at a point where they're winning, but maybe they feel they could win a bit more, maybe they sacrifice one or two of those younger players because I know I've heard there have been some, debating over whether you would include Draymond in the deal.
Yeah.
But maybe if they can get away from that, maybe that would be a place where Simmons can wind up going towards the middle of the season. I don't know. It probably depends on the expectations and how they play out throughout the season.
I mean, if that happens, you better hope Steph and Klay know how to teach Ben Simmons how to shoot.
I wouldn't.
I mean, does he need to know how to shoot though if they're both healthy and playing alongside?
To both of your points, I don't think that Simmons wouldn't be so much of an issue with that team if Draymond Green is leaving and Simmons is coming in.
Yeah.
You can't have both them dudes on the court at the same time.
Exactly.
So I mean, I like that trade. But that's the other thing, though, man. Even though Simmons is, Draymond Green on steroids in terms of his athleticism, there's leadership, toughness, and interior defense that Draymond Green has that Ben Simmons probably will never get.
He probably could stand to be a teammate of a guy like Draymond for at least a year or so. Maybe that maybe that'll get his mind right a little.
It would. I just don't think that it's ironic because that would be like almost like the perfect dude to learn from. Where you can take what he did, what he was able to do with Golden State during their runs, and try to replicate that on a higher level. But I just don't see the two of them being able to coexist on the court together. I don't know. That's a tough.
I'm with you there, Drew. At least hard. It creates a challenge competitively.
Oh yeah,
at the least, and You don't want two guys who you don't want shooting outside of 5 feet on the court. You just can't have that in the modern NBA,
Mm-hmm.
But right quick before, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say one thing I do like about this season. Nobody is without question. Brooklyn,
even the good teams,
even the Brooklyns and the Lakers of the world. Nobody's place is set in stone. Where it's like, this team for sure is a lock to get to the finals. Although I will say, if I was betting in the East, Brooklyn and Milwaukee would be where I'd be throwing my money to.
Sure.
I feel like it's a little more maybe complicated in the West, although even though the Lakers appear to be a worse defensive team on paper, I feel like LeBron can figure it out.
Let's touch upon them before we leave. Like, what should the expectations be for these guys this year? They're it's like I don't know if y'all ever heard of a movie called The Wild Bunch.
Heard of
it. It's kind of it's a situation where a bunch of old cowboys had to make a run into Mexico, and they all ended up getting shot up and dead. But I'm kind of worried that's what gonna happen with the Lakers. Like, they're gonna be gun ho for a while, but when the playoffs come, they're gonna get like picked and rolled to death by Denver, or Phoenix is gonna run them off the court or something. Like, it's just gonna fall apart tremendously. But I don't know. What do y'all think?
I mean, I think at this point, it's LeBron James. Expectation has to be championship.
Everything they do is for a championship every year from here. Yeah. As long as they have LeBron, it's championship or bust.
But the way that they have constructed that team now, they're putting a lot on his shoulders and Anthony Davis's shoulders, more so from a defensive standpoint. I don't know how those lineups are going to work. Like, I think they played around with their starting lineups, but then who's playing at the end of the game? How do you leverage that shooting that you have with the defense that you don't anymore? With Caruso and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Kuzma being gone. That's those aren't marquee names, but those are guys that meant a lot to what your team was. The last
them Lakers fans were mad too when they saw Caruso do that dunk a couple games ago. They was mad as hell, man.
I'll be mad too, but it's I don't know, man.
He's all white Mamba now.
Right. But a lot of storylines to follow.
Yeah. Josh, you got anything?
Yeah. I mean, it's championship or bust, regardless at the end of the day. Like you said, you got the King James still on the throne. So since he's still on the throne, you gotta do what you can to make sure the king is happy. And the only way that he's happy is if he has more titles and more gold in this kingdom. So you got to give him some more gold. But the Lakers can only go so far as Anthony Davis will take them. And Anthony Davis has to be healthy, and he has to be able to play on a much more consistent basis. He can't be injury prone. He has to be able to show up in the moments when they need it the most. And I think this is why they constructed the roster the way that they did, because of the fact that if Anthony Davis does go down, you still got Dwight Howard, who played a pretty big role in that championship team. You got DeAndre Jordan, who can help bring the defensive component from that as well. And on top of that, from an offensive perspective, even though you would love and need Anthony Davis as your X factor, having the durability of a Russell Westbrook can assist in having as a go-to scorer while the ball's in LeBron James' hands, which is something he didn't have because Anthony Davis always was the number 2 option. So I think that's why they did it, to help relieve the pressure in some ways, but at the same time, hold Anthony Davis accountable, which is what LeBron is known for doing. And he wants to do that, and he will do that. And I think actually bringing Russ, who is a durable, fiery guy, hungry for a championship, that is known that can be Mr. Do-It-All, that helps puts more fire under his belt too. And I think also another key is the fact that they brought back Rondo, who has that special connection with Anthony Davis on and off the court, is going to play a big role in this as well. So, yeah, it's championship or bust for the Lakers regardless, but only if Anthony Davis can fulfill his duties. And since that championship season, we know that he hasn't lived up to that expectation. So that's something we have to see and find out.
It's been rocky.
Yeah, coming off incredibly short summer. Injuries played a factor in his numbers. So I don't. I'm kind of taking his last season with a grain of salt, man. Like that was arguably his worst year ever. Coming off, like you said, Josh, the 2019, 2020 or 2019, 2020 season where it was almost the opposite, especially in the playoffs. That dude was like he couldn't miss. And I was surprised that he held up then. But I guess maybe the lack of travel, not having to travel back and forth city to city, probably played a role in that. But I'm glad that you mentioned him as an X factor because I do believe he is that, especially with the way that they gave up on their perimeter D. A lot of stuff seems to be, going to be filtered toward him and what he does to fortify that defense in the paint and keep guys off the glass is going to be a huge deal. Whether or not he's going to want to play those minutes at the 5, and it's just a lot, man. it's a lot. How LeBron and Westbrook, they talk about Levine and DeRozan kind of sharing the ball, but with LeBron and Westbrook, those are two guys that, they need to be on ball. So that's another thing I'm looking forward to seeing is how Vogel kind of manages that between those two guys in particular.
It's gonna be. We gonna get all the stories that we need from that team. It's gonna be thoroughly entertaining. Thinking of a team with LeBron and Westbrook and Melo on it, Rondo, like it's some characters on that team, man. That may be a book written about them one day. Whether they win the title or not, but we're gonna see what happens, man, and we'll see what happens with the rest of this game here in Milwaukee as well. But we'll leave y'all to watch that on your own. About 10 more minutes left. But tomorrow the crew will be right back. I'm gonna be on the desk with NBC Chicago covering the Bulls Open among other things. So I won't be available, but we will, Josh, like I said, will be running things and Scoop B will be sitting in, and there'll be a lot of good talk regardless. So y'all watch out for that coming up about the same time tomorrow. It should be exactly the same time tomorrow. And we'll there'll be some more. Expand the talk across the league and get in some Bulls talk as well. Like I said, they'll be taking on Detroit to start the season. Cunningham won't be in that game. News has come across that he won't be available dealing with ankle issues there. So that'll be interesting. But less of excuse for the Bulls, even more of excuse for Bulls to win or to not lose at least tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. But they look good in the preseason, but you don't win championships in the preseason. So we know that. But we'll be back at it right again tomorrow, running and try to hit y'all off every week with something going forward. It's the season. 'Tis the season. We hooping again, y'all. It's the NBA. College is coming up pretty soon as well, man. It's gonna be a lot to talk about, and to that degree, man. Shout out to Josh, what you're doing at the DePaul paper. That was a nice piece on the Sky DePaul connection that you put out the other day, man. Anything you want to plug on that level? Anything else?
Man, we're just preparing for basketball season coming up right now. The Big East just had their coaches and players press conferences today that we didn't get. I didn't get a chance to look at it, but they starting to promote the season now, both women and both on women and men's sides. So now that the Sky season's over with, Wintrust Arena's back open to the players. That's what we're preparing for now. So I'm definitely gonna be more on the scene with a lot of that. So be on the lookout for that. And obviously the stuff that we do here, from NBA, basketball, Bulls, you name it. We'll be all around. I'll be all around. So
definitely, we all staying busy, man. We all got our side things now. Drew got the On Tap Sports Net that he's doing on top of his stuff here now as well. Yeah. So we all got it going, man. Drew, talk about your I think you mentioned a little bit on Monday the piece that you released most recently, but it's out there now.
It is. It is. It went live this afternoon. Just talking about Nikola Vucevic. He had a rough preseason shooting wise, especially from outside the arc. He was 1 of 16, but my piece just kind of deals with why that shouldn't matter or shouldn't worry fans moving forward. So please check that out on Tap Sportsnet as soon as possible. Let me know what you think. Hit me up. Conversations are great.
Yeah, definitely support our guys, man. Drew's getting the numbers up on Twitter now, man. He started to get popular now, man. That's good to see.
I appreciate that, man. This is home, though. This is home, man.
Oh yeah, I hope it remains home for quite a while.
Man, it will. It will. I saw your Twitter profile. I was like, right on.
Well, shit. I done too much to leave it alone, man. I can't just, it's always gonna be War Media for me. That's on my belly like God's son on Nas's belly, man.
Yep. I always feel like a new kid, like, man, I can't really rep it too hard because I kind of came in. I can't.
Oh no, man. You thorough, man. You beneficial, man. You beneficial.
Appreciate that, man.
We've seen them come and go, but you've been staying. You stood around for a while, and you put out some great work for us, man. So you always official when it comes to war. So yeah, and you a runner, man. So we gonna keep running. Absolutely. As long as we can, man. We gonna keep running. Hope y'all can catch up. That's what y'all need to be thinking about. How you gonna catch up with us? So,
that's right.
Yeah. So it'll be a good start to tune in tomorrow and keep riding. So in the meantime, we're gonna keep bouncing and we're gonna enjoy the rest of these games tonight. And we'll holler at y'all tomorrow and soon after. All right. Peace.